Everyone stand, please. Oh, yes, oh, yes, oh, yes. This Honorable County Commission meeting is now in session pursuant to adjournment. The Honorable Mayor Richard Venable presiding.
Thank you, Lieutenant Wetzel. Appreciate it. I'd like to welcome everybody here this morning. Good turnout on a rainy day. First off, we'd like to have Commissioner Crawford lead us in the invocation.
Father God, how grateful we are for this another occasion to come together as a commission, a new commission, that we might conduct the business of our county. May we be sensitive and mindful of the needs. May we work together to provide those needs for all the people of Sullivan County. We just count this a blessed day that we're a part of this life here upon your footstool. All of this we pray in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Commissioner. Lieutenant Wetzel, would you lead us in the pledge?
Yes. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. We had a little practice on Thursday night, so we're going to have a roll call. Madam Clerk, would you take the roll? When the board opens, please record your presence. Has everyone checked in? We got everyone checked in. Madam Clerk, take the roll.
24 present.
Thank you. Before we get into our agenda items, I'd like to recognize Commissioner Dwight King for a special event. Dwight, you're recognized.
I just want to, I guess, draw your attention, because everybody's been watching the news and everything about all the floods in North Carolina. You know, there's a lot of people suffering, a lot of people hurting in North Carolina and South Carolina, and I just want this commission to include those people in your prayers. And I know there's a lot of people from this area going to North Carolina and South Carolina to help out. And we need to support those people, whatever we need to do in here in Sullivan County, because I'm sure if something had happened to us in Sullivan County, they'd be here trying to help us. And so just be with them and keep them in your prayers. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner King. Very appropriate and timely to do so. Commissioners, if you will look at your agenda, the next item is the election of Chairman of the Sullivan County Commission. So at this point, I'm going to vacate the seat and recognize County Attorney Dan Street, who will conduct the election of Chairman of the Sullivan County Commission for the next year. Mr. Street.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll open the floor for nominations. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Street. It'll take me just a second to pull this up here. This will take me just a minute. Beg your time here on this. Being a freshman commissioner, I've been doing a lot of studying and reading. I've attended many meetings prior to and since being sworn into this position. I feel like it is my duty to represent the public to the best of my ability within the parameters of the state constitution and the guidelines of this Sullivan County Commission. During my research, it's obvious that the different branches of local and national government have separate and specific duties. The executive and legislative branches are separate to avoid conflict and to ensure a checks and balances system. For this reason, the mayor, the executive branch, has veto power independent of the legislative branch, the county commission. Currently, Carter, Hawkins, Hamlin, Worston, and other counties in Upper East Tennessee are following the intent of the state constitution. Therefore, in absence of the county mayor, the chain of command is first, the chairperson over the commission, secondly, the chair pro tem. These are three distinct positions. With the commissioner's chairperson, the potential for a tie is minimized and also allows the mayor to devote his energy to promote our county and to help accelerate economic development. Based upon these and many reasons, I nominate an individual who has served this commission well over the past few years. He's a retired veteran and a proven leader. That commissioner is Pat Shull. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Brodden. I have to be honest and say I got caught a little bit unprepared, but I don't think in the past nominations require a second. So I'm going to go with that rule unless the commission wants me to run real quick and research that. I do know when we fill offices, it does not require a second. So that's what I'm going to go with. I'm going to assume the chairman is the office of the county. With that said, are there any other nominations? I'm sorry, what? Oh, you want me to, can I do that here?
Probably can.
Mr. Gardner.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to enter the name of our popularly elected Mayor Richard Venable for chair of the county commission. Thank you.
Okay. I do. I don't think I do. No. We'll. Okay. Any other nominations? Let's see. Commissioner Crosswhite?
Yes, I know you don't need a second, but I do stand behind nominating Mayor Venable, excuse me, her chair.
Okay. Commissioner Shaw?
Thank you, Mr. Street. I'd like to speak on my own behalf. I appreciate nomination from Commissioner Broughton. Electing the chair is not about personality and politics. It's about promulgating and passing the right policies. First, I'm philosophically opposed to the mayor, not Mayor Venable in particular, any mayor, being our chair for similar reasons that Mr. Broughton cited. It's clear that our U.S. Constitution, as well as the Tennessee Constitution, made a clear division of the separation of powers between 3 branches. And when you put the mayor in as our chair, it gives him or her an inordinate amount of power and influence. I basically believe in checks and balances and the way things are laid out in our Constitution. I think the commission and the county would be better served by the mayor not only taking care of his constitutional duties, but this particular mayor has a lot of experience in economic development. And I think that we would be very well served by the mayor having time to follow that. The mayor is a skilled politician, but the election's over. It's now time for governing. And governing is a different skill altogether. The last commission made, in my opinion, some questionable decisions. And dissatisfaction with those decisions was reflected in the election results last May and August. Essentially, the voters asked for a new direction. They asked for the commission to take a new path. There are several issues that still need to be resolved, that are left unresolved by the old commission. And toward that end, I've prepared 10 issues that I think are very important. Now, just as important, I am interested in your issues. If someone's curious about my qualifications, I've served in local government as an elected official for over 10 years now. I retired from the Army as a colonel. I led thousands of soldiers in both peace and war. I've got a graduate degree in public administration, and I could go on. But I think the essence of what we're trying to do today is to put us on that different path that the voters asked. Finally, I'd like to sort of paraphrase what Commissioner Akert said the other night. We're all about important things. We're not about focusing on 1 month at a time. We're about focusing on long term, what's the best thing for the county. If I were elected your chair, I see it kind of as a pilot with 23 co-pilots. I would pledge transparency, openness, and go hit the agendas. I'd appreciate your support. Thank you.
Commissioner Vance, did you wish to speak?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. With both candidates that are running for this position, one of the operational concerns that I have is currently our agenda is created by the mayor's secretary. And that is submitted that to us to follow through with the process, to have our agenda on the items each month. If the mayor is not elected as chairman, that's going to create a burden to this county to come up with a secretary for the new appointed chairman of the county commission. Because the secretary works at the behest of the county mayor. And that means her responsibility no longer lies in the responsibility to put this agenda together. So I want you all to take that into account, that I understand in Hawkins County, the county mayor is not the chairman of the county commission. And I've even talked to some of them down there, and there's some concern about trying to get resolutions put onto the agenda. So operational wise, changing the chairman of the county commission right now is going to be an operational nightmare for us to continue to get grants submitted to the mayor's office, to get it prepared, to submit it to us. There's just a lot of operational issue concerns that I have by not having the county mayor as the chair right now.
Commissioner Shull, did you wish to speak again?
Well, some of the newer commissioners may not be aware, but at one time we had a county commissioner as our chair during the time I've been on the commission, and we didn't have the problem such as we cited.
Commissioner Jones?
If there are no more nominations, I move that nominations cease, and we vote. Call for the question.
Is there a second on the motion that nominations cease? Commissioner Gardner, seconded that motion. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. With that said, we'll have a vote with two candidates, Commissioner Pat Shaw and Mayor Richard Venable. Do we have the capacity to do that on the board? Roll call. We'll conduct it by roll call. When your name is called, if you would please indicate who you're voting for, either Commissioner Shaw or Mayor Venable, and it will take 13 votes. So be aware, if you abstain, that's a no vote. With that said, I suppose we're ready to vote.
Hayford. Blaylock. Venable. Broughton.
Shaw.
Calton. Vanderbilt. Cole.
Shaw.
Crawford.
Venable.
Ross.
Venable.
Crosslack.
Venable.
Gardner.
Venable.
George. Venable. Glover.
Venable.
Harper.
Venable.
Hutton.
Venable.
Jones.
Venable.
King. Leonard.
Venable.
Locke.
Venable.
Morrell.
Venable.
Show.
Shaw.
Stanley. Venable. Starnes. Stidham.
Shaw.
Vance.
Venable.
And Woods.
Shaw.
Would anyone like to change their vote? Eighteen, Venable. 6, Shaw.
Thank you. With that said, Chairman Venable, turn it back over to you. Thank you.
Thank you for your confidence. I appreciate every vote. And will do my best to serve you as chairman. And I always said that the chairman's role in this particular case and doing these meetings is to actually protect the rights of the minority, because the majority will get their say. So that's the way I'll conduct this county commission for the next year, and I appreciate it. We've got that election beyond us, and that's a good thing. They're very difficult things for bodies like this to do, and I certainly appreciate that. The next item on our agenda is to elect a chairman pro tem, and I believe through Mr. Street's orientation and the previous commissioners who have previously served understand the duties of pro tem and the importance of the job. So the floor now is open for nominations for Chairman Pro Tem of the Sullivan County Commission. Commissioner Crawford, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. Ever since I've been on this commission, many people have stood out to me with great leadership skills. And one of those, of course, is our mayor. And I know that person that would succeed him in any event that he could not be present with us has to be a person that is a person of those leadership skills, a person that can direct and lead and guide. And no doubt we have several on this commission that's very capable. But I think, to me, one particular person stands out that brings that level of leadership to be our pro tem. And I place the name of John Gardner in nomination for that position this morning.
Commissioner Crawford nominates Commissioner John Gardner for Chairman Pro Tem, Sullivan County Commission. Following the attorney's leave, we do not need a second. Mr. Broughton, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. Throughout this process, we've received information from other folks on the commission that are seeking this position, and they're all good folks. The person that hasn't asked for my vote is the one I'd like to support today. He's continually been a champion for the people. His word is rock solid. Anything he's ever told me, I've been able to count on 110%. For that reason, I'd like to recommend Michael Cole.
Commissioner Broughton has nominated Commissioner Michael Cole for Chairman Pro Tem. Commissioner Crosswhite, you're recognized.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'd like to nominate Angie Stanley. Angie comes to commission meetings. I've watched her work. She gets real involved. She does her homework, and I think she would be a good pro tem for this commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Crosswhite. Commissioner Crosswhite puts in the nomination the name of Commissioner Angie Stanley for Chairman Pro Tem. Are there other nominations? Commissioner Sam Jones, you're recognized.
If there are no other nominations, I would move that nominations cease and we proceed with voting. Call for the question.
You've heard the motion. Second, Commissioner Locke. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The motion has carried. We shall move on with the election. Madam Clerk, would you take the roll? And as I remind you, Commissioner or Attorney Street, you're recognized.
Mr. Chairman, with 3 candidates, I believe we have 3 then. There's a possibility that nobody would get a majority on the first vote. Excuse me, so I'd recommend that we establish a procedure at this point in time as to what we will do in that event.
Thank you, Mr. Street, and with your agreement, I would say that it requires a majority of the commission voting to be elected Chairman Pro Tem, and with 3 members on the ballot as such, if no one achieves a majority on the first ballot, we will move to a second ballot or second vote, and the low vote getter will be dropped after the first vote, and we will move on and continue to vote until someone receives a majority. Agreeable? Very good. Okay, Madam Clerk, would you, Chairman Dan?
This is what lawyers do for a living.
That's good. That's why you get the big bucks, Dan.
Can I suggest if 2 tie for the low vote that we just simply conduct the vote again until we have one that has the minimum or the least number of votes, and then we drop. There's no in our luck, that's what will happen. Two will have the same number of votes, and then we won't know who to drop. So if there's 2 tied at the bottom, then we just conduct the vote again. Would that be okay?
Right, and the second vote would be between those 2.
And then, well, the second vote would just vote all 3 again until somebody has the least amount of votes, and then we drop that one.
I have no objection to that. If no objection of the commission. Very good. That's why you earn the big bucks, Dan. All possibilities. Okay, are we ready to vote? Madam Clerk, would you take the vote?
Aker. Blaylock. Gardner. Broughton.
Cole.
Calton.
Gardner.
Cole. Crawford.
Gardner.
Cross.
Gardner.
Parker Road,
Stanley.
Hutton,
Stanley.
Jones,
Stanley.
King,
Gardner.
Leonard,
Stanley.
Locke,
Gardner.
Morrell,
Gardner.
Scholl,
Cole.
Stanley, Starnes, Stidham,
Gardner.
Vance,
Gardner.
and Woods. Would anyone like to change their vote? Gardner 13, Cole 3, Stanley 8.
Having received the necessary majority, Commissioner Gardner has been elected Chairman Pro Tem of the Sullivan County Commission. Congratulations, Commissioner Gardner. Moving on to the next item on our agenda, Commissioner Gardner, I was kind of looking for your green dot to appear here. You're recognized.
I'd like to thank everybody for that. It means a lot to me. And the reason I wanted to say something about it, because it is very hard, especially a new person coming in first time, to ask to choose one of us over the other. And I really do appreciate your vote. Thank you. I'll do the best for you I possibly can. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Gardner. And now moving on to the next item on our agenda, the approval of commission minutes from previous meeting. Those have been mailed to you. Commissioner Morrell moves to adoption and seconded by Mr. Crawford. Any discussion, corrections, or additions to the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The minutes are adopted as published. Next on the agenda, as you will see, is appointments and confirmations. And we have two appointments to water districts in Sullivan County, the Bluntville Utility District. And just as general information, these appointments are approved by the mayor. And what I'm doing is informing the commission of those appointments at this point in time. So if I may, I would read the order appointing utility district commissioners, Bluntville Utility District, Sullivan County, whereas the Bluntville Utility District Board of Commissioners does hereby certify to the Sullivan County Mayor pursuant to TCA 7-82-307 that a vacancy has occurred upon said utility board by virtue of the expiration of a term. And whereas the Bluntville District Board of Commissioners further certifies that the nominee, David Chambers, is qualified to fill said position and has agreed to continue to serve on the board. Now therefore be it ordered, adjudged, and decreed by Sullivan County Mayor Richard Venable pursuant to TCA 7-82-307 that nominee David Chambers shall be appointed to the Bluntville Utility District Board of Commissioners the term of September 22nd, 2018 to September 22nd, 2022. The next appointment is to the Weaver Pike Utility District. Whereas the Weaver Pike Utility District Board of Commissioners does hereby certify the Sullivan County Mayor pursuant to TCA 7-82-307 the vacancy has occurred upon said utility board by virtue of the expiration of the term, and whereas the Weaver Pike Utility Board of Commissioners further certifies that the nominee, Tim Leonard, is qualified to serve said vacancy. Now therefore be it ordered, judged, and decreed by Sullivan County Mayor Richard Venable pursuant to TCA 7-82-307 that nominee, Tim Leonard, shall be appointed to the Weaver Pike Utility District Board of Commissioners. Term of September 8, 2018 to September 2022. And that is read into the record, Madam Clerk, and I will pass those along to you with approval after the meeting. Next item up is the, I'd like to recognize Amber Torbett, who is Director of our Planning and Zoning Department, and I'm going to join her as well for a special presentation.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Okay. I'm Amber Torbett. I'm the Director of Planning and Codes for Sullivan County. I've been here, I think, over 18 years now. It's hard to believe. But one of our functions is to serve the Board of Zoning Appeals. So every local government that has zoning adopted, you have to have an appeals board. The applicants can come and appeal any decision that we make or something to the code. And so you all appoint board members. They serve as a 4-year term. We have a 5-member board, and one of our members has served for 30 years. So, unfortunately, he said he had enough of me, but I would like to recognize Mr. Carroll Reed. Come on up. I don't know what I'm going to do about that. So, in appreciation of your 30 years of service, this is a very, very small token of our appreciation to your service on our Board of Zoning Appeals. You have guided us. Lots of wisdom, lots of institutional knowledge. I think I learned a lot from him, kept me on track. We made some good decisions. It's not an easy thing to do. It's definitely a thankless job, completely volunteer, and I'd like to thank you for your service.
Thank you very much.
Yes, of course.
Could you join me, Mr. Reed?
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I want to tell Mr. Reed not to get comfortable. Anybody's volunteered for 30 years, you're subject to be drafted. Please do, please do.
It's been a pleasure serving with the board for 30 years, and during that period of time, or maybe just before that, I had the pleasure of serving with 2 other planning commissions in other cities, or in 2 cities. And I'll have to say that the current planning commission, or current planning group here in the county, is the best I've seen. And we made over probably 500 decisions in 30 years, and we had probably less than a dozen appeals. Now those, I don't think that any overturned the court. But Dan Street did a good job too, representing the board, and appreciate what he did. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to try to move this without, I guess politician tries to face everybody. So, one of the things we're going to do now, and next on our agenda, is read a proclamation. And, these are the pleasant things that you get to do as commissioner and as the mayor, is to support worthy causes. And so, if I could, I'd like to ask Mayor Margaret Fire-Robin and Danielle Radcock, the leader of the Greater Kingsport Area United Way, to join me here. And if you will, let me read the proclamation, and I'd like to recognize you both for comments afterwards. 2018 proclamation supporting the efforts of the local United Way in Sullivan County. Whereas many Sullivan County residents, children, families have needs that make the community working together to meet. Whereas today's economic times continue to find Sullivan County families with great needs, and families and folks who have never had to accept help before. Whereas the United Way's focus on health, education, and income helps transform lives in our community. Whereas many nonprofits that serve all of Sullivan County strive to transform lives and meet needs, and the United Way of Bristol, Tennessee, Virginia, and the United Way of Greater Kingsport serve the entire Sullivan County, providing those nonprofits a means to provide resources to work together to make the needs known and to work on funding of all efforts. Whereas the Sullivan County Commission and Sullivan County employees are active members of our community and want to support efforts to serve the needs of our fellow citizens. and appreciate the services provided that may be used by themselves as well, including Contact 211, Boys and Girls Club, CASA for Kids, Sullivan County Children's Advocacy Center, and many, many more. Whereas fall is the time of the year when United Way reaches out to the community to know the resources available and seek support from all communities through direct donations, pledges, and payroll deductions. Now, therefore, Sullivan County Commission proclaims support for the efforts of United Way by encouraging fellow commissioners and Sullivan County employees to learn about United Way programming and participate in the United Way campaigns through direct donations, pledges, or payroll deductions, as well as giving of their time through volunteer opportunities, working together in communities to serve the needs of Sullivan County citizens and families. Proclaimed the 17th day of September 2018, Richard Venable. And it is a pleasure for me to present this, and I will have one for each of your groups to introduce Mayor Firerotten and for comments that they have. And let me encourage everyone, you kind of come to Blunt 3 or 4 times a month, but let's have a good showing for United Way out of Sullivan County, Sullivan County Commission. Mayor Firerotten, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor Venable, and thanks for your support for United Way personally. I wear a lot of hats. I'm here today as a member of the United Way Board in Bristol and also part of the United Way campaign. And just want to encourage y'all, first off, I want to welcome all the new folks. Pretty exciting to start your service today. Pretty exciting for me to be here with you, to be part of that too. So for United Way, what we're doing a lot, this is a time that we're raising money to be able to do those things, but it's also a time when we want to reach out with educating the community for what services are offered. And there's a lot of different services that go to a lot of different people in a lot of different walks of life. United Way efforts are critical. We're also evolving to try to do more transformation of lives with focus on health, education, and income. And I'm sure Danielle from Kingsport will talk just a minute more about that as well. But thank you for having us today. Thanks for your support ahead of time. Thanks for being encouraging of United Way. If you have any questions, Lisa Cofer was unable to be here today. She's able to answer questions. I can answer some of them about how the monies are spent, how our agencies work, and how the newer efforts of initiatives are working to change our communities and to change lives. Thank you.
Thank you, and again, welcome to all the commissioners too. It's interesting, as many of you were running for office, you were knocking on my door, and my question would be, do you know about United Way? And if you said yes, you're here, and you got my vote. So thank you very much for that. It was kind of like a test of the community as we were going around. But United Way, it was amazing to me to find out some people don't know about United Way. So just a reminder, United Way fights for the health, education, and financial stability of every person in our community. And we've been working on education initiatives for the past many years on 3rd grade reading, and appreciate the great efforts we've been doing with Sullivan County Board of Education on those fronts. These last 2 years, though, we have gotten into something a little bit deeper, and that is the opioid crisis impacting our community. We've had a task force working on this. We are now moving forward with this. We have now hired a person that is going to be helping us spread the message on this. But great appreciation too to Ms. Rafalski last year for allowing us permission to bring a 75-minute program into every school in Sullivan County. And every 7th grader through 12th grader was presented a 75-minute program about Tyler's Light, about a father who lost his son to opioid addiction. And we really felt that through these efforts that lives were changed. We heard that particularly at East High School, a young lady stood up in front of her whole student body and said, "Listen to this gentleman. Y'all know I lost my brother a few months ago. I don't want to see another one of you pass away from drug addiction." She stood up in bravery to the other people in her own school district as well. I see each of you as leaders. I would greatly appreciate your support to Bristol or Kingsport or wherever you can split your gift, whatever you feel so led to do that. But we do greatly run on the dollars that are donated. Together we raise almost $5 million that go into health and human service needs in this community. then those dollars are dictated by volunteers in the community that decide where the greatest needs are. So we're doing a lot of great good, and I greatly appreciate this proclamation, Mayor Venable, and thank you very much.
We will be getting materials out to all the different departments and packets to you all with pledge cards. So thank you all very much.
Thank you for coming. I would remind the commissioners that we will have pledge cards in your mailbox, which is in the back, and you may donate in several ways. Our payroll department's set up for payroll deduction, I believe, Mr. Bailey. So I encourage each of you to consider a donation united. Next up on our agenda is the public comments section of our monthly meeting, and we invite the public to address the commission on items that they might wish to inform them on. As you know, our rules provide a 3-minute comment section per person, limited to a total of 30 minutes for public comment, but I don't believe this commission or any commission I've worked with would cut off the public. So if you haven't signed up yet, and as we go through the public comments and you determine that you'd like to speak to the commission, at the end of the list, I will ask again for you, if anybody wants to be recognized, and I shall recognize you and give you time to speak. So we will recess for a public hearing, and the first person I have is Jeff Starnes. Mr. Starnes, if you will, and all, would you give us your name and address for our record?
Good morning. My name is Jeff Starnes. I live at 311 Wonderland Drive in Kingsport. I'm currently in the 6th District. I want to take this opportunity to thank Terry, Judy, and Todd. Each of y'all represent me in my part of the county. What I'm here to talk to you about today is our civic duty of voting, and each and one of you all wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for that. In the process of this last election, I got to meet a lot of you all, and Hunter, I know your dad would be proud of you today. He's looking down on you. I want to forget you. And also, thanks, Sheriff Cassidy was here earlier. I want to congratulate him being sheriff. Also, what I was saying about their civic duty while I was working the election, on 2 or 3 occasions, I'm very disappointed in how the voting occurred at Sullivan North High School. I was there working that election that day for one of the candidates. And the activities at school deterred, I feel like, from people of this county having a good chance to vote. And when you're having not homecoming, but it's open to the new kids, freshmen coming in. They had a volleyball practice that day. They took all the parking places up for the people coming in to vote at North that day. Also, during that activity, 2 young ladies that was playing volleyball, instead of parking in one parking place right up at front where the handicap should be allocated for our voters, they took up 2 parking places, parked diagonally. And I was going to go over and ask the young lady if she would just take up one parking place, and she got mad about it, and we almost had a very serious accident in the parking lot of Sullivan North High School, and we almost had a head-on collision because of it. But I guess my challenge for each of you all today is we need to make it better and easier. There's 157,000. The population of Sullivan County in 2015 was 157,000. You've got 25,000 approximately that voted. That's very disappointing. I mean, it just bothers me. Having said that, my challenge to each of you all is, if you can close the schools for a race, why can't we close those schools to vote and make this civic duty obligation? And also, it's a great teaching opportunity for our students. It was disappointing to see how the students treated the people that was voting to try to put you all in office today. And that's what I'm here to talk to each of you all about. Something needs to be done about that if we want to have more involvement with people coming out to vote. But it's just very concerning, very disappointing from our students' standpoint here in the county, what I saw on that day. They didn't reflect what I'd like to see our students that were turning out in our schools. I guess is basically what I'm trying to say. Is that their teachers, our school board members, it needs to be addressed, and they need to understand that voting is a very important thing in this country. And if they can't respect it any better than I saw that day, I'm very disappointed. But I appreciate the opportunity. I thank each one of you for taking care of the county boards. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Starrs. Mr. Reed is on the list, but I believe he has left. Love to hear from you again, Sheriff. Okay. We'll move on to the next person, Jim Duvall. Mr. Duvall.
My name's Jim Duvall. I live at 2125 Romer Road in Bloomingdale, Stuffle Heights area.
Thank you.
And I'm basically here to talk about the same thing Starnes talked about. I campaigned for some of you and with several of you. And so most of you know me, and the ones that don't, you're blessed not to, I guess. But anyway, it was very disappointing on the day of the election because they had some kind of preschool something, civic auditorium. Those people come in there at 7:30 that morning, filled every parking space up at civic auditorium. And it was very disgusting for the voters. And I think this past election has showed that your vote does count. And I'd like to see something done better, maybe a better location. They scheduled early voting during the week of Fun Fest. They shut Fort Henry Drive down at 2:30. That kept a lot of people from coming in to vote. And we need to encourage people to vote. But I want to congratulate each and every one of you all. And I think you'll work together. I hope and pray you do. Put your politics behind you, the party can't help you anymore until 4 years from now. So work together as a group to better Sullivan County. If you have a major issue come up, I would urge you to take it to the people. And if they approve it, then you all approve it. If they disapprove it, take it back to the drawing board. Prime example is our school board. We're in a pickle. But we're going to have to build a school. Another thing, I'd like to see new industry come in this area. Tennessee Eastman has controlled us long enough. You're not obligated or committed to Tennessee Eastman. If we had more industry in here, it wouldn't be a ghost town if Tennessee Eastman decided to pull out. So don't cater to Tennessee Eastman. Don't cater to the city of Kingsport. Do what's best for taxpayers as a whole. And you'll do a good job. I appreciate everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Duvall. Next up, Roy Kendrick. Welcome, Mr. Kendrick.
I live at 2285 Island Road, and I'd like to get the property 2287 changed.
Are you here for a zoning issue, Mr.?
Yes.
Okay, we'll need you to speak during that time after the public comment section, if you could. I'll call on you again when your zoning issue comes up. Thank you, commissioners, who reminded me of that. We don't have it split out now. So let me ask, if other than zoning issues, is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the commission for any reason? I believe we have coming forward Mr. Jason Brewer, who is our election commissioner here in Sullivan County. Jason, welcome. Give us your name and address, if you would.
Jason Boer, Administrative Elections, 3258 Highway 126 in Bluntville. Two gentlemen that share their concerns. I understand their concerns. We've spoken at length. Just want to address some of the concerns that they brought up, provide a little bit more clarity for some of you. And of course, all of you served as candidates, and you got my email, so you probably already have some of an understanding about this as you campaign. Number one, we struggle to find suitable locations for voting. And I would like to have 25 or 30 locations in this county that are used exclusively for voting, but that's just not possible. And I don't think that would be fair to the taxpayers to expect them to fund that type of facility or facilities. I don't get to get set when early voting is held, and I understand that's a common misperception of voters and citizens alike. Early voting is mandated by state law. It's the 20th day through the 5th day before each election day. We work with each one of our locations. We are guests at those locations. Public facilities like the Civic Auditorium, like the high schools, and private facilities like the Traders Village and various churches. We get a lot of cooperation from those facilities and their controlling boards and management. When you consider what the Election Commission has the authority to regulate, and this is an Election Commission issue, we cannot regulate anything outside of the 100-foot boundary entrances to each polling location. So, you know, if there happens to be an altercation between candidates, between voters, that's up to the Sheriff's Department or the local law enforcement authority for that location. We try our best to facilitate parking, and thanks to one of the gentlemen, we did so successfully at the Civic Auditorium through some of the concerns we had there. Most of our facilities are dual use facilities, and so you've got to take that into consideration. One of the things we have asked for years, both as a state organization and here in Sullivan County, is that county schools be closed on all election days, and we just passed a state law this year that requires schools to be closed on election day and November elections, and it's optional for any other election. So that's a step in the right direction. When it comes to the schools, we get a great deal of cooperation from both Bristol City Schools and Sullivan County Schools. We work diligently with them to not only make sure that voting is accessible for our voters, but we also make sure that they're secure. And we have law enforcement personnel that are there. We do various things that to help mitigate the security risks of having voting at those schools. But I just wanted you to know we do everything within the law, and there's things that we can't do, and our authority is limited. So if any of you have any questions about that specifically, we're definitely open for suggestions or input. But one of the other things about finding other locations, and we've done this in the past, not because we wanted to, but because out of necessity. We move a location and voters will appear despite the fact that we mail them a notice in the mail, and we post a notice at the old facility, and we run an ad in the newspaper. And you've got to remember, not every voter is like probably most of you in the room that votes in every single election. Some voters will skip elections, if not a decade of elections. And that's unfortunate for them and for us. But one of the things that happens when we move a location is those voters will show up at that old location for years to come. And when a voter shows up after we've stopped placing that notice, it's been 6, 8, 10 years, and there's no notice there at that old facility, they're upset. So we've got to balance. When we move a location, we've got to balance that. And I assure you, Civic Auditorium is a crowded facility at times, but if we moved it, if we had a place, and I don't know of a place, that could accommodate the parking and the accessibility to the Civic Auditorium, we'd have people showing up there to vote for 10, 15 years from now. And they would not be happy when there was no voting occurring at the Civic Auditorium. And that's just one example. But again, if anybody has any questions, and it's something we take seriously at the Election Commission, I assure you, feel free to talk to me at any time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brewer. Appreciate you being here this morning. That completes our would like to speak? We're back in regular session. Next up on our agenda is the approval of notary publics. And I will now recognize the county clerk for the reading of the list.
Janet C. Anderson, Vicki Armstrong, Elizabeth Williams Bright, Lana Cheryl Brown, Angela Dawn Carter, Brittany Brianne Cook, Alice Kelly Corker, Robert C. English II, Terry D. English, Penelope Dawn Fletcher, Rhonda D. Hall, Sherry Diane Hilton, Patricia A. Jackson, Sandra L. Jones, Tessa Malone, Angela L. Marshall, Kay McKenzie, Andrew Ortho Madukas, Deborah S. Monk, Kelly Drum Moran, Robin Renee Mullins, Deborah Lynn Myers, Robin C. Napier, Judy E. Patton, Janet R. Peebler, Catherine L. Priester, excuse me, Cynthia P. Ramsey, Ronald L. Ramsey, James K. Roden IV, Tina Ashworth Robinette, D. Lee Robinette, William Joseph Robinette, Leroy Russell, Melissa C. Sands, Lindy J. Shoecraft, Anthony Cyril Skeens, Clarisse Strong, Charity Thomas, Tracy Michelle Vandeventer, Gorman Waddell, Roy Daniel Way, Natalie Jane Owens Wells.
You've heard the list. Does any commissioner know of any reason why any name or person identified should not be approved as a notary public? Seeing none, we'll
Second.
have a motion for adoption. We need a motion on this. We need a motion to adopt the list as written. Harper Road to Council. Lot. Any discussion? Seeing none, this on the board. When the board opens, please cast your vote for the approval of notary publics as read. Has everyone voted? Anyone wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, take the vote.
24 yes.
Having received the necessary majority, the list is approved as presented. Next up on our agenda is the zoning meeting and resolution number 1. Move for approval. Commissioner Gardner, second by Commissioner Cole. Any discussion? Can we put that on the board also? Please cast your vote on item number 1 on today, and this is a resolution to consider zoning and planning issues. We've made some advances up here, and we get more on the board now. We normally, as a new commissioner, we normally don't do that. We have roll call on that. So, has everyone voted? Anyone wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Yes.
I have received necessary majority. Item number 1 is adopted, and we shall recess, and you're recognized, Ms. Torben.
Great, thank you. So in your packet, you should have a separate packet for the zoning. We have 2 cases, looks like this. And in your packet, we try to include the minutes from the Planning Commission, the staff report, zoning maps, aerial pictures, and some pictures we take of the sites to help you make a decision. Also on the screen we have our slideshow for those in the public who don't have a packet. We have 2 cases to present to you today. So Sullivan County has had zoning since 1988, and from time to time property owners request that their property be rezoned for one reason or another. We have 2 cases. The first is from Mr. Roy Kendricks, His property is currently zoned B3. It's located at 2285 Island Road in Bluntwell. And as you can see, there's the aerial photography. Here's the zoning map. As you can see, everything in green is zoned A1, which is general agricultural single-family residential. He owns parcel 91.20, as highlighted with the arrow. He is requesting it to be rezoned back to A1. This went before the Sullivan County Planning Commission last month, and they have unanimously recommended in favor of this request. I think Mr. Kendricks is here if you have any questions for him. Our staff report is second page in your packet. For obvious reasons, if he is no longer using it commercial and it is surrounded by agricultural, his request is to rezone it back to A1, and we are recommending in favor of that request. This is in the county's rural area as designated by the 20-year growth plan, served by Bluntwell Utility, and it's with on-site septic. We did not have any opposition. We actually didn't have anyone show up at the meeting for this specific request except, of course, Mr. Kendricks. So we normally open it up for questions from me or public comment from the applicant.
Thank you, Amber. I'm going to recognize, if okay with you, I'd like to recognize County Attorney Street to kind of set the stage for where we are and how we vote on these. And
Great.
I appreciate your explanation too.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I covered this in the Bridge the Gap seminar, but just very quickly, just to update everybody, just to make sure in case anybody's not really sure exactly what's going on here. Number one, we do by law have to have a public hearing. So again, anybody from the public, be it the property owner, a neighbor, whoever, has the right to speak during these. So when the mayor mentions, is anybody in the public wishing to speak, that's the public hearing we're required by law to have. Number two, if you will notice on your handouts, you're going to have a recommendation from our staff, which is Amber and our zoning department. There's also a planning commission recommendation. Now today, both of those planning commissions are Sullivan County, but in the future, if the property lies inside the Kingsport growth boundaries, urban growth boundaries, smart growth boundaries, whatever they're called, you'll have a recommendation from the Kingsport Regional Planning Commission, and likewise Bristol. Although those jurisdictions exceed their geographical boundaries, by law they do have the right to plan outside their geographical boundaries. And finally, the rezoning request comes before you in a positive fashion. There is no need for a motion to approve or disapprove. It comes on before you in a positive fashion, so you either vote for it or against it.
Just an up or down vote on each one. And at this point in time, we would, if Mr. Kendrick would like to speak to this, we'd like to recognize him. Mr. Kendrick?
Thank you. This property, I just recently bought the one. But in the past years back, it had trailers on it. And the reason I want to do it is downsize. I'm selling the property over the side of it, and I want to set a single wide trailer because, you know, I'm going to live in it, and I'm trying to downsize. I'm getting too old to take care of it too much, you know.
Okay, anybody got a question for Mr. Kendrick? Mr. Kendrick, thank you for the explanation. Appreciate your being here. I believe we're, any further comments?
Thank you.
Thank you. I believe we're ready to vote on application number 1 on today's planning and zoning agenda. Please cast your vote. The board opens. Has everyone voted? Anyone wish to change their vote? Mr. Jones, you realize you're not voting? You got it. Thank you. Anyone wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, take the vote.
24 yes.
Application number 1 is approved. and adopted. Ms. Torres, you're recognized on application number 2.
Okay, thank you. If you'll flip through the pages, the second rezoning request is from Mr. Jeffrey Boer. He owns property at 290 Sandbar Road in the Bristol area. It is also in the rural area. It is served by Holston Utility District. It is currently zoned agricultural. As you can see on the aerial, it's parcel number 140. Has lots of river frontage and road frontage. Currently has a cabin and a barn on the property, and his request is to rezone it to agricultural recreational. Outdoor recreational allows land uses such as campgrounds, cabins, fishing lodges, things of that nature. In your packet, well, I'll show you some pictures. There's the existing cabin. Right in front of our county vehicle is the river. Beautiful land. Okay. This went to the Sullivan County Planning Commission. There was no opposition for this request. He specifically would like to build 2 or 3 more cabins for his family, he has a large family, or to rent out. And rather than subdividing the land and chopping it up, he would prefer to go this route. It's been in his family for a very long time. Dr. Brewer is also here to answer any questions you may have. Again, this is located in the rural area. I think also in your packet, you should have received a request, or excuse me, a map that details some of the other rezoning requests that we've had specifically to AR. In the last, I don't think Tim put it in our packet, no. So just to highlight, for those of you that don't know, the AR zoning is sort of unique to Sullivan County. We have a lot of requests for campgrounds on our lakes and on the river. Those that have been rezoned on the river has specifically been for purposes of catering to our fly fishermen and recreational retreats. We don't have any campgrounds per se on the river due to some of the constraints of the topography. But we have approved several AR zones on the river. I wanted to point out that the Sullivan County Planning Commission has an adopted land use and transportation plan, and part of the policies in that plan is to promote outdoor recreation on the amenities such as our river and the lakes. So they're encouraging on a case-by-case basis to promote such on these water bodies as opposed to out in the middle of farmland and where subdivisions might be more appropriate. So on that, in keeping with our land use and transportation plan, we are recommending in favor of this rezoning request.
You've heard the explanation. Any questions? Mr. Morrell, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is in my part of my area that I represent. I am in favor of this. As Amber had stated, we've done 4 other zoning issues like this along, I think it's about 8 to 12 mile stretch of the river going down toward Bluff City from the South Houston Dam area. And I would just ask the commission to support this, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morrell. Any other statements or questions for Ms. Torres? Seeing none, Commissioner King.
What about the septic systems? Is there enough room for 2 separate systems on each lot, or where each cabin's going to be?
Well, of course, for the rezoning process, Sullivan County does not have a policy to require any studies to be done prior to the rezoning request. If it is rezoned, he would have to have a comprehensive survey site plan presented to the Planning Commission with all utilities, such as the septic system, worked out. I don't know if he's done any soil testing yet or not. That's not a requirement, because if it doesn't get rezoned, he's out there, those engineering studies. So, but there is considerable land. A lot of it is accessible to the lake and the road, lots of road frontage, as I pointed out. I know that TVA and the state have strict regulations. Any septic system would have to be 50 horizontal feet and 2 vertical feet above the base flood elevation of Holston River. So you cannot put your field bed lines right on the riverbed for obvious reasons. And so that will further limit the density that he can achieve. But again, his desire is only to put 2 or 3 more cabins, and there's sufficient land for that. I don't know if it's been soil tested yet.
Thank you, Mr. King. Any other questions? Seeing none, we're ready to vote. Mr. Ryan, if you'll vote for, cast your vote when the board opens, come to you with a recommendation for approval. Yes vote approves the change. Has everyone voted? Anyone wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, take the vote.
24 yes.
Having received the necessary majority, application number 2 is approved as presented. That completes our zoning. Thank you, Amber.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kidder, for being here.
Just a quick note, if any of you all would like to stop by our office, we're on the ground level, just right outside the elevator. Planning and Codes Department, I would be glad to share with you any of our codes, ordinances. If you have any questions, just drop by during normal hours. One of us can help you with that.
Thank you, Amber, and I highly recommend that. If you haven't been there, this is one of the most important functions of the County Commission, and as you serve, you will find that you affect citizens in great ways here. It is about 1:15. If the Commission will indulge the Chairman, let's take a 15-minute recess, and please be back in your respective seats at 10:30.